Imagine waking up every day feeling trapped by expectations that are not your own. You follow the path that others have set for you, family, society, peers, without ever stopping to ask, is this the life I truly want? What if I told you that the secret to real fulfillment is not in pleasing others, but in embracing your own desires, dreams, and passions today? We are going to uncover the found wisdom behind living for yourself, not for others. By the end of this journey, you'll discover the most powerful realization of all, one that can transform the way you see your life forever. From ancient philosophers to modern psychologists, thinkers throughout history have explored the deep struggle between societal expectations and personal freedom. Why do we feel so compelled to meet the demands of others? What holds us back from fully embracing our own path? And most importantly, how can we break free from these invisible chains and start living a life that is truly our own? If you have ever felt like you are living a script written by someone else, this is for you. Let's explore why we fall into this trap, the consequences of neglecting our true selves, and how you can take back control of your life step by step. Keep watching, because the final realization will be the most liberating of all. Throughout history, human beings have been shaped by the expectations of their communities. From the time we are born, we are taught what is acceptable, what is respectable, and what is desirable. Parents, teachers, friends, and even strangers impose ideas about how we should live. Society tells us what success looks like, what happiness should be, and what paths are worth following. But here is the truth: none of these definitions matter if they do not align with who you truly are. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre argued that we are condemned to be free, meaning we are born without an inherent purpose, and it is up to us to create one. Yet many people refuse this responsibility, choosing instead to conform to the roles assigned to them. They follow a safe, predictable path, avoiding judgment or rejection, but in doing so they sacrifice their own authenticity. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon extensively. Carl Jung introduced the concept of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are rather than who society expects you to be. When we ignore our true desires and adopt identities shaped by others, we experience an inner conflict, a tension that manifests as anxiety, dissatisfaction, or even depression. Living for others may bring temporary approval, but it often leads to long-term emptiness. Think about it. How many times have you hesitated to pursue something you love because you feared what others would say? How often have you put your own needs last to meet the expectations of others? It is a painful reality, but one that many people live with every single day. The desire for acceptance is deeply ingrained in our psychology. Evolutionarily, humans depended on their tribes for survival, making rejection a real threat. Today, that same fear lingers. Even though the stakes are no longer life or death, we seek validation through social media, career choices, and even relationships, constantly measuring our worth by how others perceive us. But here's the question you must ask yourself: are you living, or are you merely performing? The cost of living for others is high. It leads to a life filled with regret, a feeling that something is missing, even when everything seems perfect on the outside. Studies show that people on their deathbeds rarely regret things they did. They regret the things they didn't do, the risks they didn't take, and the dreams they abandoned for the sake of others. But here is the good news: you have the power to change this. You can choose to break free from the expectations that imprison you. You can start making decisions based on what truly fulfills you, rather than what will please those around you. And the first step is recognizing the signs that you are living for others instead of yourself. Do you feel like your decisions are guided by fear rather than desire? Do you struggle with setting boundaries because you don't want to disappoint others? Do you find yourself constantly explaining or justifying your choices? These are all indicators that you may not be fully living for yourself. But imagine a different reality, one where you make choices based on your own happiness and not the approval of others. Imagine waking up every morning excited about your path, free from the weight of expectations that do not belong to you. This is not just a fantasy, it is entirely possible. And in the next section, we will dive into exactly how you can start reclaiming your life, practical steps, mindset shifts, and powerful realizations that will set you on the path toward authentic living. The most profound truth is yet to come, and it will change everything. Breaking free from the expectations of others is not easy. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to face discomfort. But here is the truth: every great transformation begins with a moment of clarity, a realization that you are not truly living the life you want. That moment is now. So how do you start reclaiming your life? The first step is understanding the illusion of obligation. Most people walk through life, believe they must follow a set path: graduate, get a stable job, marry, have children, retire. But who decided that this is the only way? Who wrote these rules? The answer is simple: society. And while some people may find fulfillment in this path, others do not. The problem is that many never question it. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche believed that the greatest human struggle is between conformity and self-overcoming. He warned that living to please others leads to a herd mentality, a state where people follow the crowd, never questioning if the direction they are heading is truly right for them. But those who dare to break free to create their own meaning become what he called the Übermensch, or Overman, a person who rises above societal norms to fully embrace their individuality. Now think about your own life. How many of your decisions are truly yours? When was the last time you did something purely because it felt right for you, without considering what others might think? If the answer is rarely or never, it is time to challenge this. The second step is identifying the hidden influences shaping your choices from childhood. We are conditioned to seek approval. We learn that good behavior earns praise, while rebellion brings punishment. This conditioning stays with us into adulthood. When we choose careers, relationships, and lifestyles, we often do so with an invisible audience in mind: parents, friends, colleagues, or even strangers on the internet. But living for approval is like chasing a mirage. No matter how much you do, it is never enough. Psychologist Abraham Maslow introduced the concept of self-actualization, the highest level of human fulfillment, where a person fully expresses their true self. However, he also identified a critical barrier: the need for belonging. Many people get stuck at this level, afraid to take the leap towards self-actualization because it means risking rejection. But here is something powerful to remember: the price of true fulfillment is the willingness to stand alone when necessary. The third step is redefining success on your own terms. What does a successful life look like to you? Forget what you have been told. Forget the societal checklist. Take a moment to reflect. If no one else's opinion mattered, what would you truly want? Maybe success means traveling the world, pursuing a creative passion, or simply living a peaceful, stress-free life. There is no universal definition of success. There is only what aligns with your soul. Consider the story of Henry David Thoreau, a writer and philosopher who left behind the expectations of society to live in solitude at Walden Pond. He rejected materialism and the pressure to conform, choosing instead a life of simplicity and self-discovery. His famous words: go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined. Continue to inspire those seeking a path of authenticity. But let's be honest, choosing yourself is not always easy. People will question you. Some will criticize you. Others may even distance themselves from you. And that brings us to a hard truth: not everyone will support your journey. And that is okay. The fourth step is learning to be at peace with disappointing others. The need to please is deeply ingrained in human psychology. We avoid conflict. We want to be liked. But at what cost? Each time you say yes to something that does not align with you, you are saying no to yourself. Over time, these small compromises add up, leading to a life that feels unfulfilling and inauthentic. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, offered a powerful perspective. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own. This is a paradox. Why do we allow the judgment of others to dictate our lives when we are the ones who have to live with the consequences? The truth is, the opinions of others are fleeting. People who criticize today will forget tomorrow, but your life, your happiness, that stays with you. So ask yourself, are you willing to sacrifice your peace just to avoid disappointing others? Or are you ready to take ownership of your life? Once you start prioritizing yourself, something incredible happens. You begin to attract people and opportunities that align with your true self. The relationships that were built on expectations may fade, but the ones that remain will be stronger, more genuine. Living for yourself does not mean being selfish. It means being honest about what truly fulfills you. And when you live in alignment with your truth, you inspire others to do the same. We are just getting started. In the next part, we will go even deeper, uncovering the psychological barriers that keep people trapped in the cycle of external validation and most importantly, how to break free for good, the most powerful realization, is yet to come. And when you hear it, everything will change. One of the greatest challenges in living for yourself is breaking free from the invisible chains of external validation. Even when we recognize that we are living to please others, something inside us resists change. That something is fear, the fear of judgment, rejection, and failure. But here's the truth: fear is not a stop sign, it is a test, and those who push through it discover a level of freedom that most people never experience. Why do we crave validation so deeply? The answer lies in our biology. Human beings are rewired for social connection. In ancient times, being accepted by the tribe was a matter of survival. Rejection meant isolation, and isolation often meant death. While society has evolved, this primal fear remains. Today, rejection does not threaten our survival, but our brains still interpret it as danger. This is why criticism, disapproval, or even the slightest hint of social exclusion can feel overwhelming. Psychologists refer to this as the social comparison theory, a concept introduced by Leon Festinger. He argued that people evaluate their own worth by comparing themselves to others. This is why we constantly seek reassurance through likes, comments, promotions, or compliments. But the problem with external validation is that it is never enough. The more you seek it, the more you need it, creating an endless cycle of dependence. Now imagine a different way of living. Imagine no longer seeking approval from people who do not truly understand your dreams. Imagine making choices without the weight of expectations holding you back. This is not just a dream, it is a mindset shift, and the key to achieving it lies in one simple principle: detach your self-worth from external opinions. The first step to doing this is redefining failure. Many people avoid living authentically because they fear making mistakes. They worry about what others will say if they take an unconventional path and it does not work out. But here's a power truth: failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Every great thinker, innovator, and leader has faced rejection, criticism, and doubt. What separates them from the rest of the world is that they did not let it define them. Take the story of Vincent van Gogh. He created over 2,000 pieces of art, yet in his lifetime, he sold only a few. Society dismissed him, people called him unstable, a failure. But today, he is considered one of the greatest artists of all time. His work was never about approval. It was about expression. He lived for his art, not for others. And that is why his legacy endures. The second step is embracing solitude. Many people fear being alone because they equate it with loneliness. But solitude is not loneliness. It is self-connection. The most authentic people in history, philosophers, artists, scientists, spent significant time in solitude, reflecting, creating, and understanding themselves. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who cannot be alone will never be free." Why? Because when you are constantly surrounded by the voices of others, you never hear your own. When was the last time you sat in silence and truly listened to yourself? If you want to start living for yourself, you must be willing to step away from the noise and reconnect with your inner voice. The third step is learning to disappoint people. This is perhaps the hardest lesson of all. If you choose to live authentically, people will not always understand. Some will criticize, some will distance themselves. And that is okay. Think of it this way: every time you say yes to something that does not align with you, you are saying no to your own happiness. You cannot make everyone happy without making yourself miserable. And the harsh reality is, no matter how much you try to please others, someone will always have an opinion. So why not live in a way that fulfills you? Mark Manson, in his book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fan, emphasizes that people waste too much energy worrying about things that do not truly matter. He argues that true happiness comes from choosing what is worth caring about. And when you start prioritizing your own values, the opinions of others lose their power over you. Now, let's make this practical. How do you start living for yourself today? First, identify one area of your life where you are making decisions based on external expectations rather than your true desires. Is it your career, your relationships, your lifestyle? Acknowledge it. Awareness is the first step to change. Second, start setting boundaries. If something does not align with your values, learn to say no without guilt, without explanation. Your happiness does not need justification. Third, take one bold step toward the life you want. Maybe it is pursuing a passion you have ignored. Maybe it is speaking up about what you truly believe. Maybe it is walking away from something that no longer serves you. Whatever it is, do it. The final and most important realization is coming. And when you hear it, it will change everything. Stay with me. Because the most powerful truth is about to be revealed. The most powerful truth of all is this: no one is coming to save you. No one is going to give you permission to live your life on your terms. No one is going to tell you now it's okay to follow your dreams if you are waiting for approval, for a perfect moment, or for a sign. It will never come. The only person who can truly free you is yourself. This realization is both terrifying and liberating. It means you are fully responsible for your happiness, your choices, and your future. But it also means you are no longer a prisoner of expectation. The moment you stop waiting for permission and start acting in alignment with your true self, everything changes. Why do so many people struggle with this? Because living for yourself requires something most people are unwilling to face: radical self-honesty. It means looking in the mirror and admitting where you have been conforming. It means acknowledging where you have betrayed your own desires. It means recognizing that every excuse you have used, fear, responsibility, obligation, has been a chain keeping you tied to a life that does not truly fulfill you. But here's what most people do not realize: breaking free does not mean you have to abandon everything. It does not mean cutting off everyone or living in complete isolation. It means shifting your mindset, taking back your power, and making decisions based on what truly aligns with you, not what others expect. The first step is simple but profound. Take ownership of your life. Stop blaming circumstances, people, or past experiences for where you are. Yes, society conditions us to seek approval. Yes, family expectations can be strong. Yes, fear is real. But none of these things have the power to control you unless you let them. Take a moment and ask yourself, if I had no fear, what would I do differently? What would my life look like if I lived for myself and not for others? This is not just a philosophical question. It is a turning point, because the answers you give reveal what truly matters to you. And once you know that you cannot ignore it, the second step is embracing the discomfort of change. Living for yourself is not always easy. It will challenge you. It will test you. Some people will not understand. Some may even resist your growth. But every great transformation in history, personal or global, began with someone who was willing to break the mold. Think about the great innovators, artists, and leaders of the world. Did they follow the crowd? Did they live according to what others expected? No, they took risks. They trusted themselves. And that is why their names are remembered. The truth is, most people are too afraid to fully live. They prefer comfort over courage, approval over authenticity, security over self-expression. But here's what no one tells you: the greatest regret is not failure, it is never having tried. There is a reason why the most common regret of the dying is this: I wish I had lived a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Imagine being at the end of your life, looking back and realizing you never fully embraced your own path. That is the ultimate tragedy. But you are here right now, with the power to choose differently. The final step is this: stop asking what will they think and start asking what do I want. Every time you hesitate, every time you feel trapped by expectation, ask yourself, in the end, whose life am I living, theirs or mine? Because here's the ultimate truth: no one else will live with the consequences of your choices except you, not society, not your family, not your friends, just you. So what will you do with that truth? Will you keep waiting, keep seeking approval, keep living a life that is not your own? Or will you decide right now that your life belongs to you? This is your moment, your turning point, and the choice is yours. Thanks for looking.